Hey, we're Saints. Father Chris here. Welcome to our Crucifixional Lifestream. Glad to have you beautiful people with us. A couple of weeks ago, my family was in Northern California at an annual seminar conference that our church, our diocese, hosts each and every summer. This year was in Northern California. We went and we saw a lot of people we know. What was interesting about it is that in the conversations my wife and I were having with some of our friends and some other parents and other people in the diocese it was a recurring theme. So many people felt, and none of them like were talking with each other about it. It just in random conversations it would come to us, right? So it was like it told me it wasn't an isolated thought, that everyone there was feeling the same thing. And that was this. They felt like, what's going on in the world? Like the things that we know to be true, the values that we have that we were taught in church, taught by the gospel, informed by the apostles and Christ himself in the scriptures, these like logical and traditional and Christian values are being like disparaged. And that's putting it mildly, right? And that I'm kind of like an outcast in society because I believe what I believe, and that people in the world, and sometimes even people in our own churches who we grew up with and know and who went to church their whole lives, are castigating us for these particular positions or beliefs that we hold, things that we all know to be true. And that sometimes leads to, and this is what all these people said in one way or another, feelings of loneliness, feelings of isolation. Like, oh my gosh, am I the only one who thinks like this? I feel so alone. And as we talked about earlier this week, that kind of stuff comes from fear and anger, and it will eventually lead us into doubt, like maybe I'm wrong. And these values that I've been taught, maybe they're wrong. And I feel alone. I feel isolated and alone. The interesting part about it was, and my wife and I were talking about it, she's a much smarter gal than I for sure, and her insights were telling me, like, she said, like, look at how nice it was for all of those people, and us included, to be around people who think the same way. Now look, when I talk about traditional Christian values, I'm not talking anything political, Democratic, or Republican. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. There are certainly elements of the Christian gospel in Democratic and Republican thoughts. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about traditional Christian, real truth, right? And it was nice for us to know that there were other people who thought the same way. Now, let me say this. In exploring this, it doesn't mean that, thank God I used confirmation bias to find other people who think what I think to only confirm what I already believe. I mean, it wasn't even about confirmation bias. It was about recognizing I'm not alone in that isolation that I may feel as I engage the chaos of the world. And you may find the same in your workplace, or in your own families, or with your friends, or the grocery stores, or maybe even in your churches. That isolation you may feel because you have a strong traditional, ethical, moral, Christian-based value system to look at the world, though it may feel like it's under assault and you may feel alone. You're not. That's the key. I want you to know, I need you people to know that you are not alone. For those of you out there who may be feeling very isolated, like I'm on an island, I think there are more and more people like those we encountered at that conference a few weeks ago who are feeling exactly the same way. The key is that we are not alone in this. And we don't have to go forward alone in this unless we so choose. And I would encourage you, choose not to be alone. Choose not to be isolated. Find a group, perhaps join a movement of other like-minded people who know truth, who find truth from God himself, who want those traditional Christian values that we have not to be taken from us. And then, let's fight for them. When you join the Warrior Saints movement, that's exactly the kind of team you're joining. That's exactly the same kind of army you're enlisting in, right? The way of the Warrior Saint is God's way. And though we've been talking about it all week, it may seem foolish to the world. Indeed, what seems foolish is actually God's power, because in the cross, Jesus Christ conquers. Do you see it? So the world may say it's crazy, but we know it's power. It's God's power. And I want you to be a part of that team. It's really simple. It's really hard, but it's really simple. When you visit warriorsaints.org, that's our website, you're going to scroll down halfway through the page and you're going to find something called the Way of the Warrior Saint. I want you to get that button that says Get for Yourself. Get it for yourself. Do it for yourself. Join this movement so that we can really fight for those values. I'm not saying that we want to destroy any other person, we want to harm any other person, but I am saying that it's time for us to rise up and become warrior saints. People who take the gospel of the cross and live crucifixional lives in our own lives. Let's make some noise in the world. It's a beautiful thing when we do that. And it's more beautiful when we do that together. Visit warriorsaints.org. Leave that isolation behind. You're not alone. Join the team, join the movement, and let's get some. As always, keep walking on the way of the warrior saint.